2025 National NRDAR Workshop. Official logos of U.S. Department of the Interior, March 3, 1849, ORDA, and the Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program. Throughout the presentation, there are many images of student apprentices, both in classroom settings and outdoors, looking into many facets of the natural surroundings, such as wading through rivers, measuring trees, and examining plants. Some black and white photos are also shown depicting historical mining operations. TCTCIT stands for Tar Creek Trustee Council Indian Tribes.
Hi, thanks for waiting for me. All right. Folks, we're going to be recording again, so if you'd like to not appear in the recording, please make sure you just keep your camera off. And I'm very excited about our next session. As you can see, we're going to be hearing about the successful first year of the Tribal Apprenticeship Program. So I'd just like to introduce our presenters. We'll be hearing from Tami Lowery, Tabitha Langston, Kathy Welch, and Dr. Kaylene Ritter. So I'll give a brief introduction for each of these presenters. Tami Lowery served as the assistant coordinator for the Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program in 2024, and now as the program coordinator in 2025. She's a former teacher, she's a grant writer, and she's currently consulting with local tribes on project management and evaluation. That's Tami Lowery. Tabitha Langston is the Deputy Environmental Director for the Ottawa Tribe of Oklahoma with over 25 years of expertise in tribal environmental management. She's dedicated the past 13 years to the Ottawa Tribe and previously served as Environmental Director for both the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma and the Quapaw Tribe of Oklahoma. She holds a Bachelor of Science from Missouri Southern State University. That's Tabitha Langston. Kathy Welch is the Environmental Program Manager for Wyandotte Nation. She was born and raised in Southwest North Dakota, and she started work at the Wyandotte Nation in 1996 and has been in the Environmental Department since 1998. That's Kathy Welch. And Dr. Kaylene Ritter is the President of Natural Nexus, where she supports states, federal agencies, and tribal nations on environmental risk assessment, natural resource damage assessment, restoration, climate impacts, climate resiliency, and adaptation. Kaylene holds a PhD in aqueous geochemistry from Colorado School of Mines. That's Dr. Kaylene Ritter. So folks, over to you.
All right. Tami, are you going to run this? There we go. We're tag teaming this today, so you have to bear with us a little bit. We're happy to be here today to talk to you about our Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program. Christian introduced everybody, so I won't do that. But yeah, I'm thankful that Kathy, Tami, and Kaylene could join us today as well. Briefly, here's our agenda. We're going to talk about a little bit about the background and the context. We'll talk about our purpose and vision for the program. We'll give you an overview of year one and a little bit of our evaluation on that, and then the steps we're taking this year for 2025. And we're going to, like I mentioned, we're going to tag team this, so we'll be handing it off to each other a couple different times. Before we dive into the program, just a little bit of background and context on the Tar Creek NRDA. We're in extreme northeast Oklahoma, legacy of heavy metals contamination from mining. The released metals resulted in injuries to natural resources, obviously. Next one. The natural resources, fish, plants, wildlife, tribal members and citizens hunt, gather, and fish. And that has been injured as a result of the release of the heavy metals. And that resulted in human service losses experienced by the tribes here in the northeast corner. Next one. NRDA activities began in the early 2000s. Here's our, we have one, I think probably one of the largest trustee councils ever. Between the DOI with Fish and Wildlife, BIA, the state of Oklahoma, Cherokee Nation, Eastern Shawnee, Miami Tribe, Ottawa Tribe, Peoria Tribe, Seneca Cayuga Nation, and the Wyandotte Nation. And those tribes, you probably hear us talk about this a little bit, the Tar Creek Trustee Council Indian Tribes, we formed that group. Sorry, lost my place here. In 2022, our trustee council finalized our first restoration plan, and the Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program was one of the projects that was selected. You're up, Kathy.
Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Welch, and like Kirsten said, I work for the Wyandotte Nation Environmental Department. And we're going to talk to you about the TCAP purpose and vision of our program. The program purpose is to train young tribal members and citizens how to restore the habitat and natural resources that are injured as a result of the release from hazardous substances, and to connect them to the land and traditional uses of natural resources. And our long-term vision is for tribal members and citizens of the Tar Creek area in Northeast Oklahoma as stewards of the land, leading and overseeing landscape, scale restoration of habitats so that we can return the land to ecological health and thereby allow traditional uses to resume. This will occur through the melding of the Western science, TEK, and traditional ways of knowledge. And TCAP 2024, this was our very first pilot year. We had several program development administrators, 7 tribes, and 5 administrators. And as you can see the 7 tribes involved that Tabitha had mentioned. We have TCAP administrators Tanona Kuhn, Tami Lowery.
Molly. That was Molly.
Yes, Molly. I'm sorry, I just went blank. Phil Sonera, and then we had I'm sorry, my mind's going.
Amanda Hurd was the classroom coordinator.
Yes, and Amanda Hurd. I'm sorry, my mind just went blank on that for a minute. Tami, if you'll go ahead. And the students, this was a really good first year for having student applicants. And we had 34 students the first year, ages 16 through 21. We had representation from all 7 of the tribes, which was really good. And we were very excited about this. And the students were very excited about it. And then our instructors and our presenters, we had the tribes, which within the tribes, we had our leadership, the TCAP, and other environmental staff from the tribes involved, cultural departments, and the TIPOs, the tribal historic preservation officers, hunting and wildlife departments, members and citizens, and the NRDAR consultants. And then we had the Department of Interior, which was U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Restoration Support Unit, and Bureau of Indian Affairs. In the state of Oklahoma, Bureau of Land Management, Department of Environmental Quality, Office of Attorney General. And then we had experts from the local community, environmental and advocacy organizations and groups that were experts in this. I'm getting tongue-tied. Experts in the NRD process.
Okay, I'm Tami, and I'm gonna walk you through basically a day-by-day look at the 6-week program. Each of the 6 weeks was divided into a different restoration theme, and I got to start out by saying, we worked so hard. TCAP worked so hard for years up until this point. And then when we came to opening day, we were amazed at the students and the participation and their eagerness to learn. And overall, the whole aim of it was to give students an understanding of the natural world and to teach them from a traditional ecological knowledge and cultural perspective, but focus on the physical and natural sciences. And I mean, they just were the most wonderful group. This week one, we had an opening day ceremony and we talked all about Tar Creek and where it all started for us and the damage to our area and the NRDA, the Natural Resource Damage Assessment, and ecology, restoration. We talked all about that. Lower right picture was all the different tribes represented, sharing their history, sharing their story, and each of them listening to one another. It was really interesting, not just the students took away, but what the presenters actually took away and how they forgot how common their backgrounds were. And so this opening week was really great, just laying a foundation to build upon.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, showing the locations of Sycamore Creek in the southeast corner, 4 Mile Creek, Miami Chat Base, Ozark Plateau National Wildlife Refuge, Quapaw Chat Piles, and Lost Creek.
At the end of each week, we decided that we would end the week with some sort of a restoration site visit. And these were the specific sites that were selected that are all a part of the proposal. That is Kathy and the picture. And we started at Sycamore Creek. And Sycamore Creek, the neat thing about this is when the students are walking out there, remember, they're brand new. They have their little Write in the Rain notebook, and they don't know what they're supposed to be thinking or writing or anything. And so they're eager and nervous at the same time. And we just told them, observe, write what you see. What do you hear? What are you noticing? And Kathy guided them through some different projects. And the really cool thing about this particular site is they were here week one to see the situation that it was in. And then they got to go back in week 6 when the project had already been underway and restoration had begun, and they could not believe it was the same site. It was so exciting. So then they compared their before and after drawings in their little notebooks. And it was so neat for them to hear, like, I did not realize this much work could be done. And it was fantastic. So week 1 was great to lay a foundation. We started out with week 2 talking all about plants, fibrous plants, and the different crafts that could be made from fibrous plants and medicinal plants, how to know what type of plants to pick. One really interesting story I wanted to share quickly is we walked near Tar Creek that is polluted. And we found some yarrow that would be great for making a salve. And one student said, there's some yarrow, can't we just pick it and take it back? Because they made a medicinal salve that day. And the presenter said, well, even though it's far enough from Tar Creek and even though it's up, it's still contaminated. And the students were like, you're kidding. They had no idea. And they just thought, well, we're just going to learn how to do all this. And then they began to realize we've got to be careful where we pick our plants, where we're harvesting food, and it just opened up a whole new world for these students. We took 2 really amazing field trips, one to Uchi Butterfly Farm, where they let them really get their hands dirty, and then Prairie State Park, and they caught butterflies, and they learned all about all of this with the pollinators. And then we ended that week, and that young lady in the lower right is holding a giant thistle. I believe we dug up 200 thistles that particular day. And then the starts that we had that they planted came from Uchi Butterfly Farm, which interestingly came from this very property where they had grown, they had harvested, they come to this property to harvest those seeds, and then they grow them at Uchi, and then they bring them back, and the students got to learn that, and they learned that their gloves weren't thick enough for thistles. And so this was a really great week. Students loved it.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, highlighting the location of 4 Mile Creek in the northwest corner.
We ended this particular week at 4 Mile Creek with the Miami tribe. And you can see there on the map where all these locations are at. And this was a good week. I'm going to say that every single time. I'm so sorry. It was all wonderful. Every day was wonderful. But they learned how to do different monitoring techniques and just different aspects. This is one of the other projects at 4 Mile Creek. Week 3, was all about wildlife. They started out the week with a hunter safety course. Everybody passed. That was exciting. Then they learned different things about wildlife, fish resources. They learned how to gig. That was exciting. They learned how many students had never fished before. And I was actually kind of surprised to find that out. They learned how to tie a knot on a hook. We learned about beekeeping and the mussels. The cool thing about this picture in the lower left, that's Erin Barnes, one of our TCAP reps. She had collected pond water and put it in both of those aquariums, and about an hour before we came, and put some mussels in only one of the aquariums. And when we walked in, we were asked, the students were always asked to observe and, to kind of start to think and observe and see what they see. And one of them was clean, and it was the one that had the mussels in it. So the students, it's amazing, as I have a teaching background, and you don't want to just tell them right out. You want them to kind of figure it out for themselves. And that was so cool that Erin did that for these people, for these students. They got to go, well, what is the difference? Oh, wait, that one's got something in it. They didn't even know about mussels yet. So they learned all about how mussels in water filters the dirty, it cleans it. This was an awesome day. So every day was awesome. It was fantastic.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, highlighting the location of Miami Chat Base in the northwest corner.
And we ended week 3 at another Miami site. It was the Miami Chat Base. This was a time where the students, this is now week 3, halfway through, and they're learning a lot at this point. And they're walking around going, what are we supposed to see here? What are we supposed to do? And then it was like, okay, well, look what you're standing on. This is a chat base. And we asked the students, what do you think we should do? And one student's like, well, I guess we just need to bring in a bunch of bulldozers to scrape it up. And then it was said, well, we tried that, but look, there's a cave-in over there. There's too much open underneath us. We can't do that. We can't bring anything heavy. And so we let the students, the Miami Nation Environmental Department ladies, let the students kind of brainstorm, what would you do? Some students were say, bring out cattle. And then other students were like, yeah, but why would you bring out cattle on a chat base if you know the chat's contaminated? So they're thinking and they're trying to decide what you would do. And I remember one student was like, easy, paintball park. So it was great to hear them brainstorming and trying to figure out what could we do as students. Week 4 was all about lifeways. So, this particular week, you might glance at it and think, this looks like a bunch of cultural crafts. But what is really happening is this pottery on day 1 was dug out of the earth. We showed them videos on how to do that and what the proper process is. And our ancestors could not have pots and clay if they didn't know how to respect the earth, how to take care of the earth. And so they learned all about pottery and making their own pinch pot. Then they learned about baskets and then the proper type of reeds. If all the reeds that you were to harvest were contaminated, then all your baskets may be contaminated with the food that you're putting in for your family. So those are the types of things that we talked about, in addition to learning how to make baskets and preserve that art. Archery and flint knapping was a great day. This was a day I'm so thankful that we had gloves, and I'm thankful that we had eye protection. But we will add Band-Aids to the supply list this year because of the archery and flint knapping day. So every student made their own arrowhead and their own arrow, and they learned how to shoot a bow and arrow. And this was they loved this opportunity. Moccasins was a really good day. They learned how to make moccasins, and they learned about, this was actual smoked buckskin that they were to cut. And those are 2 gentlemen that wore those moccasins so many days after this. And we just thought that was the coolest thing. And then one day we went somewhere where there was a lot of rocks, and they realized that their boots were necessary for the rocky days and their moccasins were necessary for the rest of the days. So the students absolutely got into this. They learned about tribal historic preservation. That's very important. And then the final day of this week, They made more medicinal plants. They made an ointment. The first day they made a salve, and students kept coming back saying this salve, they were sharing it with people. And that was a really important day, that because when there were cuts that anybody got, they were putting the salve that they made with medicinal herbs in it, and they were using that the rest of the time. So that was really neat.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, highlighting the location of Ozark Plateau National Wildlife Refuge, about 100 miles south of all of the other visited sites.
At the end of week 4, we visited the Ozark Plateau National Wildlife Refuge. This was a really good opportunity. We did a forest density measurement with the students, and they took notes and they took pictures and they analyzed different things. And then we brought the students a little bit farther down and ask them, okay, we've got a little bit of problem. This is overgrown. Richard Stark was there telling the students this is overgrown and we have to come up with a plan. And so again, you ask the students, what do you think the plan should be? And somebody says, well, let's burn it. Well, that's a good idea because we learned a little bit about that before, except this particular plant, the weed, it loves fire. So we can't use that. Okay, well, then maybe we spray it with pesticides, somebody thinks. Well, there's bats that we're trying to protect. So what do? Next thing you know, backs up a trailer and all of these goats come charging out and they instantly just start eating these weeds. And I loved the students' faces like, you've got to be kidding. Goats? That's a restoration technique? And it worked. And then Richard sent us a before and after photos. It was fantastic. So the students have learned so much every single week of different restoration techniques. Week 5 was all about food. We started learning about different gardens and the techniques, and we went to meat processing plants with 2 different tribes. They learned about gathering sap and how to make syrup. And they got to sample the syrup, and that was something that many of the students had never. They were like, I can't believe this just came from a tree, and that I could do this at my house, and I can teach my parents how to do this. That's the thing that we kept hearing students say is, I can share this with my. And one student came back and said, I told my grandma about this, and she said, yes, we used to do that years ago, and nobody does it as much anymore. And so that's the beauty of these young people is nurturing this in them so that they can go out and restore the earth so that we can then use it to its fullest potential. We did a toxic tour, and you can see in the lower left, they're standing on chat piles. And I remember the students just saying, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And it just looked like a deserted land. And, they are already learning a lot by week 5, but now I noticed by week 5, they're like, what can I do? What can I do to help? Because they were absolutely motivated and bought into the whole thing. And then we learned about first foods on the lower right. Those are acorns that they were crushing and making into flour, and they got to sample acorn flour bread, and it was fantastic.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, highlighting the location of Quapaw chat piles in the northwest corner.
At the end of week 5, we spent more time near the chat piles at the Quapaw Nation, and they planted 2,000 willow trees. And yes, there's students in water, and we told them that they didn't need to get in the water, but that's actually my son in the red shirt. He took off his shoes. He was in it. So he's fine. But they got in it, and we made sure they were cleaned up, but they're really, really, really wanting to do good and to change the world and to make it a better place. And this was ground zero for them. This next year, we're taking them basically to ground zero on week 1 for them to see that.
Satellite map of the northeast corner of Oklahoma, highlighting the location of Lost Creek in the southeast corner.
And then on week 6 was our big week restoration capstone. We started off with fun, with restoration recreation, with lacrosse. And this was another day we actually needed Band-Aids. They had so much fun learning about this. And we had a young man there that teaches how all of those sticks were made from from the earth made from trees. He showed them how he found the perfect tree to make a lacrosse stick. And then we had career day and we had many booths. And I will say, I think it was three students changed their majors by the end of TCAP. They were going into something unrelated and they all changed them to something environmental. And so quite a few of the students were like, this is something I really want to spend the rest of my life doing. Then we had closing. Oh, go ahead.
We even had some right who weren't in school and
Yes.
changed direction to enroll.
Yes. Yes, we did. That's exactly right. And so also on closing ceremony, about 2 or 3 weeks prior, we had bought them little butterfly kits and everybody had caterpillars. And I gave them the instructions to go home, take care of their caterpillars, and then bring them back at closing ceremony. And so we had a little special release of their butterflies. And this was a beautiful, just kind of a symbolic moment of these students basically coming out of their cocoon of knowledge. They now know the world is ready for them. They're excited about embracing and all these different potential paths that they could take. And now they know that this earth is such a wonderful place and that they actually can take part in restoring it. And then our final, after that closing ceremony that morning, a little bit later in the morning, we had their presentations. And I'm telling you, they blew us out of the water. We weren't sure. We truly, as a pilot year, we weren't sure exactly what to expect them, how they would produce these presentations. And they were fantastic. And so I actually want to talk a little bit more about that here. Each of the days of this final week, we had them visit the location, take pictures, make observations, and then they met with their groups. Then they developed presentations, and then they turned it into an actual proposal. So here was some pictures of day 1 of them visiting the site, Lost Creek site. Then day 2, they're drawing diagrams, they're meeting as groups and teams and analyzing what they should do for their proposal. And they each came up with their own names. I think that little team name was Agua Fresca. And so they got to come up with their own location, their own names and what they would do. So we told them that if they were basically to be hired in their proposal to be selected, what would they do? How would they restore this area? And so they brainstormed. We had different mentors with them to kind of help guide them. But the students, that they led the project. It was all about what they thought. And so I think I'm talking about this one too. This is TCAP by the numbers. At the conclusion of it all, the data is what speaks. And so we visited 6 restoration sites. We did 9 monitoring techniques, 18 field trips with over 900 miles traveled. We planted 2,000 trees and there were 16 career day vendors. And truly, there's more data than that, but that's like the nuts and the bolts of it. It was a phenomenal program. I wanted to share this student impression from one of the TCAP students. As apprentices, we were reminded throughout the program that the goal of the Tar Creek restoration, as well as the TCAP program, was to restore our natural resources so that we could continue our traditional and sustenance lifeways as Native youth and carry forward our environmental knowledge safely. Especially as Indigenous peoples whose culture values the passage of practices and expertise from elders to younger generations, it is crucial to us that teaching such practices would not potentially endanger the next generations as it would us. As tribal youth, practices such as lacrosse, weaving, basketry, and moccasin making are central to our knowledge of environmental restoration because they all rely on the gathering of natural materials such as wood, fibrous plants, and animal hides. This was at the forefront of our minds and lessons every time we learned a new skill reliant on environmental resources and ecosystem services. That is the most beautiful student impression. And I'm so thankful that Kaylene wanted to put that one in. This TCAP student actually became, her name is Anna Collins, and she became our assistant coordinator this year. But she was a TCAP apprentice last year. And then finally, I want to share an instructor impression from one of our teachers named Andrew Gord. Each one of those students has a life that is important to the future of our nations and families. Even if they never again flint knap, make cordage, or get employment with a tribe, they are walking away with a connection to their tribe, ancestors, and living communities. I hope they now see and know others that they can call on when they are in need of connection. I hope that they all walk away a little bit more confident and strong. I want them to have a hope that they can make the world a better place just by being in it and participating in their own life and development.
Andrew Gord is a member of the Seneca Cayuga Nation.
So as you can see, TCAP has not only left an impression on the apprentices and students, but also on the instructors and on all of our lives, and as I hope it does yours. So I'm going to turn it over to Tabitha.
Oh, Tabitha, I think you're still on mute.
Yep, it dinged me and said, "Hey, silly, you're on mute." I could listen to Tami talk about that program. I think because she doesn't have it written down, so she tells a different story sometimes. And so it's like I didn't go out every day, so I'm learning more and more about those kids. Sorry, we are now in the midst of our second year of our piloting program, and we're working on refining the program and our curriculum based on what we learned last year. And I'm going to get into that here next. We hired an evaluator, Dr. Chuck Herrick. He conducted a formal evaluation of our 2024 program. And this is one of the quotes from his report. The pilot year of TCAP was a clear success. The program was quickly, efficiently, and thoughtfully designed. All necessary program support was in place when the program opened on May 29th. The broad, multi-topical curriculum was comprehensive, well-structured, and integrated. The curriculum included and supported tribal concepts and belief systems alongside Western science, technologies, and methods of ecological restoration. Yeah, I get goosebumps still reading that. It was such a cool program, especially the first year. When Tami mentioned how many years, there's several folks on the line here who participate and help out with the Tar Creek Trustee Council, and this was a vision. Kathy and I have been doing this a long time, and it was a vision for a long time. So we're very personally connected to the program. We did it as much as we had all this great feedback. We did identify some areas that we wanted to make refinements and improvements, and that's the focus for this year. In 2024, it was a very active program with many site visits and field trips that Tami talked to you guys about. But there were also portions of the program that were more lecture style learning. And the feedback we received through the evaluations from the kids was to enhance our hands-on learning and to minimize those lectures. Wow, yeah, shocking, right? They didn't like the lectures. They really enjoyed getting their hands dirty, if you will. We had a couple other, so yeah, this year we're going to do that. We're going to learn, our focus and emphasis will be on learning through doing. So rather than getting a lecture about the NRDAR process and restoration planning, the students will learn by doing. They're going to form a mock trustee council and evaluate some of the actual projects in the Tar Creek Trustee Council's 2022 restoration plan. And they're going to use the restoration criteria that we did when we were ranking them. And so we're actually kind of curious how they're going to rank compared to how us experts ranked them back then, and see what we get. For field site visits, the students will be more directly engaged in, say, taking the measurements, the water quality sampling, rather than it being demonstrated to them and them watching it being done. And our restoration capstone module is going to be expanded. We're adding an additional day. And so we're really giving a little more time. They enjoyed that, but we're expanding that out a little more emphasis on that. A couple of the other structural adjustments we've done is we went from the 5-day a week, we're going to 4 days a week, a little bit longer day, so Monday through Thursday. And we did a narrow age range. We had, what did we have, like 10th grade? right, to, you know, like a sophomore in college. And that age gap was huge. And so there's a lot of growing up in those few years, right? So this year we're focusing on rising high school seniors to age 21. In that, I think we got a little bit less applications, a few less applications. And so last year, all of our apprentices were from the 7 tribes, from the TCAP tribes. And this year we actually have a couple non-tribal kids that are enrolled. And so we're kind of excited about that. We always put an emphasis, kind of like the BIA does and tribes do on hiring, right? A Native American, what's the word? Preference, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And, you know, to where the 7 tribes would be first, other tribes second, and then we would expand out to non-tribal. So we're actually getting to do that this year. And we are very interested in their take on the program at the end as well, and what they learn. All right, where are we at? Next one.
Table outlining the curriculum, which is divided into 4 main sections: foundation, plants and habitat restoration, wildlife restoration, and capstone project. Each section has corresponding dates and a list of specific activities. This table can be found in the 2025 Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program student letter linked in this video's transcript.
Yeah. We've also made some adjustments to our curriculum. Tami kind of laid out the curriculum kind of week by week, and we've made a lot of changes there. So we're going to place more emphasis on learning about the local ecological habitats and the natural resources that were injured as a result of the heavy metals due to mining, right? And they're going to be an emphasis on learning how to restore those types of habitats and restorations. And then the ecological and human services that will flow once restoration occurs, including human services provided to the tribes, such as the hunting, the fishing, the basket weaving, medicine making. And so we're going to focus a little bit more on kind of the science of it and the restoration, and then linking that to how the tribes use those services and those resources. Yeah, what's next? This program's getting ready to start. We're kind of starting into a little panic mode, right? We're getting close. The first week of June for 2025. And so it's crunch time and we're getting geared up and we're really excited. But our ultimate goal is to have this be a multi-year program. The first pilot year was amazing, and the second year, with the refinements we're making, we hope it's even better. But either way, we're going to learn from it and then to make it into a multi-year full program. Do we have videos? Can we try to?
Yes, we do. Let's see.
A new browser tab is pulled up on the screen to show a YouTube video. Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program, TCAP overview. It plays unexpectedly and is stopped before restarting.
Land, you notice things.
Let me start that over. Here we go.
Video plays, showing scenes of nature, historical photos of mining operations, students participating in various hands-on activities in classrooms and outdoors, and interviews with the following program coordinators and tribal leaders: Philip Cernera, Tabitha Langston, Tami Lowery, and Aaron Barnes.
When you've grown up loving the land and being a part of the land, you notice things, you feel things, that nature just tells you things.
Tar Creek is a beautiful little creek that my mom grew up swimming in and fishing and enjoying and loving, and people have used for many, many years.
And it is a river drainage that has been highly contaminated by mining wastes.
It's a super fun site because of the mining pollution that led to lead poisoning and arsenic and cadmium and zinc being in the waterways.
When the aquifer that was mined, the water being pumped out, when they stopped pumping it out and it filled, of course, that's when the orange water started surfacing and into Tar Creek. The area was ignored for years.
Text appears within the video, reading, "More recently, some of the companies that historically mined in the area went through some bankruptcy proceedings. And through these proceedings, the tribes, the state of Oklahoma, and Department of Interior recovered settlement funds for natural resource damages. Natural Resource Damage Assessment, NRDA. The process of restoring the environment back to how it was before heavy metals were released.
And in those settlement funds, they decided one of the best ways to use those funds is to enrich the lives of tribal youth and teach them and train them how to clean up the earth, how to love the earth, how to use its natural resources for cultural uses like our ancestors did.
The Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program is really an accumulation of the groups that formed the trustee council and have worked so diligently. The whole program was designed around how do we make this sustainable? You know, we can repair the chat piles, but if we don't create new stewards, if we don't light a fire in youth and teach them not only about the natural resources, but the culture behind it and how that connects us so wholly to the earth, then who's going to take up the sword and shield when we're gone and keep on fighting? They learned the general ecology, the science behind what we're doing and why we're doing it. They learned stream bank restorations. They learned if they are going to plant trees, what tree species would have naturally occurred in this area. They learned what rocks they can use for flint knapping, which would lead to, longbow archery. They learned how to shoot a bow and arrow. They learned how to fish. We were stewards of the land long before it became a thing. To teach our youth how to be good stewards of the land and how to connect to it better only benefits everyone. It benefits the people. It benefits the land. To gain that knowledge and the connection between your culture and your natural resources, man, how cool would that be?
Video continues, showing students participating in program activities.
I believe that this program is so important because it not only is connecting students with nature, but now they're learning practices that their actual ancestors used to do. Those cultural practices can be lost. And the 7 tribes in our area are going to make sure they're not lost.
TCAP was implemented by the Tar Creek Trustee Council Indian Tribes, TCTCIT, whose logos are shown: Cherokee, Eastern Shawnee, Miami, Ottawa, Peoria, Seneca Cayuga, and Wyandotte. Official logo of Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program. Video ends.
Is there another one? Did you want to?
Yes.
That was the only one. Yeah. Okay, one more.
Yeah.
A new browser tab is pulled up on the screen to show a YouTube video, TCAP Student Experience. It plays unexpectedly and is stopped before restarting.
Just one more. They make me cry every time I watch
I
them.
know. I know.
You're now
Please keep this.
being
Oh,
able
no.
to connect.
Video plays featuring interviews with the following students: Anna Collins from the Wyandotte Tribe of Oklahoma, and Daniel Wendell, Alexis Riggs, and Mason Lowery, all from the Cherokee Nation. Phillips Hernera, TCAP program coordinator, also speaks. The video shows footage of students engaged in program activities.
I really loved TCAP. I've made friends. I feel like I have a lot stronger ties to here now. Being able to connect more to my tribe and our practices has been really important for me. And I feel like I've learned so much about habitat restoration, which is really cool because I study environmental science.
My favorite day has been the cultural aspect of basket weaving, flint knapping, and making moccasins. We've planted trees with the Pawpaw Nation. It's very environmentally focused, which I love because, we need a place that we can call home.
I learned a lot about natural resource protection, which is really important to me because I love animals, love nature. We learned about like cultural activities like making moccasins. Like I thought that was such a cool process, and basket weaving. Like I never thought that I'd ever do that.
I just love being outside and being a part of something that is helping teach the youth on how they can better themselves and better their culture around them.
It's a pretty rich curriculum. They did all sorts of field trips, restoration projects, as well as in-class learning.
It's all tying in to this very last project we're doing. For this last project, we got a small portion of Lost Creek, which runs through the Eastern Shawnee tribe. And there are certain problems with this creek, and they've sorted our class into 4 different teams. We are analyzing the problems, and through everything we've learned from the program, we are developing PowerPoints, and we are developing a restoration plan. And with that plan, we're going to present it to the tribes, and hopefully we can restore Lost Creek to what it once was.
A message I would give to the future students that try to attend the program is if you want to get in touch with your cultural side, definitely this is a program that will help you advocate into launching into that territory.
I think TCAP is really important because all of that has made me feel much more connected to the area and gives me a much stronger incentive for wanting to keep it safe. And I think that's really crucial when it comes to environmental protection, is teaching people not just how to take care of the land, but why they should want to.
TCAP was implemented by the Tar Creek Trustee Council Indian Tribes, TCTCIT, whose logos are shown. Video ends.
That's cool because one of the girls in that video is now our assistant, right? She's helping us implement this year.
TCAP student experience starts playing again with a shot of Anna Collins speaking.
I really love TCAP.
Oh, her, Anna. Right on cue, she came up. Yeah, thank you guys for asking us to present today. Obviously, we're very we love this program, and so the more we can share it, we're happy to. We love to, and we'll answer any questions if you guys want to do that. Or I know, well, we finished on time. Yay! Thank you.
What's next slide appears as speakers wait for questions.
Any questions for our fantastic presenters here?
No reactions or chats are shown on screen.
Oh, we have one. We have a hand raised.
See, Laurel's got a hand up. I think Becky can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you, Becky.
Okay. You know, technology. I've had my headphone on all day, too long. So the first question in the Q&A is, the apprentice curriculum is so wonderful, so well thought out and intentional. What was the process for developing it? And what is the application process for students like? What, was there a cost for the students to participate? So I guess 3 questions in there.
Kaylene, do you want to touch the curriculum one portion of it?
Yeah, and Tami, you know, you were in the boots in the thick of it for TCAP 2024 for sure. So it was kind of developed from scratch, and you know, we had Philip was the lead coordinator, and he kind of originally came and met with the 7 tribes a few times, came and spent a couple of weeks locally to understand better kind of the site and the issues. You know, the uses of natural resources, the kind of the resources available to sort of develop a curriculum in terms of topic areas. And then it kind of evolved from there. You know, we always put a focus on this is the natural resource damage assessment. These are the natural resources that have been injured. And so we're, you know, focused on restoring the impacted resources, but it was certainly a team effort. And I don't know, Tam, if you have anything else to add there, I'm sure you do.
Well, we just we started advertising and answering questions from parents and students and put the application out there. And our application, we asked them questions about what they were interested in and if they were interested in nature, and everybody was that applied. So I interviewed every single student last year, and just to kind of let them know, here's what you're getting yourself into. It's not going to be a fun, easy little summer camp where you get to wear flip-flops. It's hard work, and you're going to become invested, and that's what we're telling them this year. So yeah, we had over 60, almost 70 applicants last year.
Yeah. So then it was sort of a random draw,
right?
With an emphasis on representation from the 7 tribes. And then the third question, this is an apprenticeship program. So the students actually earn a stipend while they are in the program. So almost kind of think of like a graduate program at a university where, you're a graduate student and you have a stipend to cover your time while you're learning. The same sort of idea here. So the students actually earn a small stipend while they're in the program.
And if they can attend and complete the program, they have received lifetime hunting and fishing licenses as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Laurel, you had a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you so much. This has really been a great learning session for me. I was curious about trustee council participation and kind of, I haven't seen something like this done before by a trustee council. So how did they get involved, if they weren't immediately part of, I guess, like the education and the 6 weeks of training? Were they part to like support the supplies? Like, did trustee dollars get spent in kind of the materials or the classroom setup or transportation costs? Is it some of those things?
Yeah, the trustee count was we had our first restoration plan that had several projects submitted, and this was one of the projects. And so we split the cost. So the joint settlement with the full trustee council paid 70%. And then the tribes had some separate settlement dollars, and it paid a 30%. And so it was fully supported basically by our trustee council. They were instructors, they were presenters. I saw Suzanne's hand raised, but Suzanne Dunn with Fish and Wildlife Service was a key person in going out. Probably will be, I don't know if we will be again, maybe Sam will be this year, but she's out in the creek with the kids, and the state of Oklahoma was presenting. They were involved quite a bit in every step of the way, and we obviously had to have their support to do this again for this year as well. So this year, though, I have to give props again, give shout outs. The trustee council settlement dollars, the joint settlement paid 70%. And then the BIA awarded us a grant for the other 30%. And so the tribes this year are not out any money for the program. So that tells you the support that we've had from our partners.
Yeah, and I would just, this is Suzanne Dunn. I was case manager when we were evaluating this project, and this project was the vision of the tribes, and they brought it to the entire trustee council, just like Tabitha said. But we all really ended up feeling we had ownership because we were able to contribute to the ideas, and we were obviously involved in teaching, just like Tabitha said. But really, they allowed us to really participate in kind of the development of the idea along with them. So the entire trustee council felt that this was going to be a really good fit for some of the impacts from the mining, not just on the ecological learning that the students did, but also the lost use. So yeah, there was a whole trustee council buy-in on this.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Suzanne. I know you have another question, but in the chat, and we have a lot of kudos going on in the QA that this is a great program and everyone's very excited to see it. Do just want to take a couple more minutes before we move on. Kim, you have your hand raised also. You can come off mute. There you go.
Yeah, so I was going to ask a similar question as Laurel. And this has been a wonderful presentation. I thank you all very much. It is so heartwarming to hear these great success stories. In this area, I've been involved with the group for over 20 years that does something similar. But not incorporating the NRD, which I found fascinating about this presentation, the incorporation of the restoration and the restoration projects. Truly wonderful. Thank you all. I was going to ask about how it got looped into the trustee council, but Laurel did, and you all answered it. And thank you very much. And this is fascinating. It will certainly be on my radar because of this presentation. And of course, because of the success. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked on it. We worked on the tribes. Like I said, it was a concept, and it kind of morphed, over the years and into a little bit different things, and it still is. And that's why we wanted to do a second pilot year, just to do things a little different and try to decide what worked best for the kids and for us. And so it's still morphing a little bit, but this was our baby, right, Kathy? This was our baby, this project. The St. Regis, I have to give a little props to the St. Regis Mohawks have an apprenticeship type program. And we had seen presentations from them and a couple videos of theirs. And so that helped as well. We weren't necessarily the very first. I think we're probably the first to incorporate the restoration in the NRDEA part. But in that video, Aaron Barnes with the Peoria Tribe said it best. Kathy and I have been doing this a long time. And we need people to replace us. Philip Sanero once said that if we can train our replacements, basically, right? So that, that we teach the tribal youth, then they replace us. And we need new stewards. And so that's part of this, is to, spark their interest and get them going in this direction to one day take our place. And I think it's successful. We had an Ottawa student. Now his two brothers are enrolled this year, and so it affects the whole family. They did take this home as well. And so really, really cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, we love it. And we appreciate the kind words. And again, we could not have done this without the support of our partners, the buy-in from them, continued buy-in from them to help us out. So, but yeah, we're available. I don't know if our contact information, I think, Becky and folks would have that if you have any other questions. We have a Facebook page. You can search for the Tar Creek Apprenticeship Program as well. Get a little information that way.
Thank you. And I think we could all listen and watch and learn a whole bunch more about it. But in the interest of time, I am going to turn it back over to Christian to continue.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky, and great thanks to Tami, Tabitha, Kathy, Kaylene for sharing your successes and your apprentices' excitement from their 6 weeks with you. Tami shared with us about the men who tried hiking in their new moccasins. I grew up outside of Philadelphia in the historical homelands of the Lenni Lenape, and I also learned the hard way about hiking in moccasins, as anyone who knows the rocky trails of Pennsylvania can appreciate.